it has caused a really powerful cathartic awakening. Probably the biggest one of my life. And that's what I've really learned over the last 100 plus days here in Costa Rica, is that I don't need plant medicine. I don't need anything except the relationship that I'm building with myself. Welcome to the Entrepreneurs in Recovery podcast. I am so grateful that you're here today because it's a special day. Today is the day where I record my first solo podcast, solo cast, solo recording. And, this is unscripted. I decided not to take notes. I decided to just get on here and share. And maybe I will look at my notes. Maybe I will look at some of the things that have happened. But this episode is a special episode because this is me really reviewing the last 100 days living in Costa Rica, the revelations, the realizations, the things that have occurred, the things that have happened. And I really want to share this with you so that you can, one, get to know me better. Two, if something stands out and helps you, to reach out, let me know. Go ahead and go to YouTube and leave a comment on this episode. Go ahead and like and subscribe to the show, and go ahead and maybe leave a review on Spotify or iTunes so more people can reach the show. So as I said, this is my first solo cast recording, and we are over 42 episodes now of the Entrepreneurs in Recovery podcast. And I got to say that I'm proud of myself. I'm proud of myself that the show made it this far. Most podcasts don't make it past episode 20. So I'm really grateful for you to be here. And I'd like to start off by sharing when I got to Costa Rica, and just to let you know, I sold my condo on a Friday and moved to Costa Rica on a Monday. So that's kind of the definition of all in, taking massive action. It's sort of how I've lived my life in many ways. At some points of my life, I stalled big time due to fear of the unknown, fear in my body and in my nervous system, which we're going to get into in this episode, because the fear that has kept me stuck in my nervous system, that has kept me stuck from taking action, is some of the big healings that I'm starting to have here in Costa Rica. And we're going to get into all that. But if we go back 100 plus days ago, the Monday that I got here, the feelings that I had, a full day of travel. I got here at night. It was so dark. Where I'm located, there's no light pollution, no noise pollution. It is just pitch black, dark. And I remember getting here and getting into my condo and just feeling scared, feeling excited, feeling exhausted. And I woke up the first day here in Costa Rica, and there was a tarantula right by my door. So I came outside and I realized that, oh shit, I'm living in a jungle and I'm living in Central America. It kind of hit me after living in New Hampshire, living in New England my whole life. It hit me. I'm in a jungle. And so that tarantula was a good reminder of that moment. And just to be aware of what could come, what dangers or surprises lie ahead, and also what excitement lies ahead on this grand adventure of life. So that first week was really challenging. It's also the rainy season here in Costa Rica. I think we've had over 32 or 33 inches of rain so far, which is quite a lot of rain. Someone told me that 1 inch of rain equals up to 15 inches of snow. And so that's quite a lot of snow, quite a lot of rain. And if that's wrong, you can go and fact check that. So day one was intense. The first week was intense. I decided to take my first surf lesson, and shout out to Dominical Surf School. I was living in Dominical Beach. So if you've been to Costa Rica, Dominical has some very serious waves, and I had never surfed before. Actually, I took one lesson in 2020, I believe, when I came here to Costa Rica the first time. But it was just a lesson. But being here in Costa Rica, I wanted to learn surfing. So I took surfing, and man, was I unprepared for that experience. I thought I was in good shape, but not. Apparently, I was not in good surfing shape. I was exhausted. I was defeated. So, the surfing journey began, and little did I know, now 100 plus days into this experience of surfing in Costa Rica, surfing has become one of the most powerful therapeutic tools that I have. Going out there into the ocean, even if I only catch one wave, and whether I surf it or wipe out, just being on the ocean, that ocean medicine, looking at the skies, catching sunsets on the ocean, looking back into nature, into the rainforest, it's really profound. So surfing has become very therapeutic. And if you're a surfer, I think you know what I'm talking about. So really grateful. I grew up in Massachusetts, New Hampshire. I snowboarded since I was a kid. Always very cold, very serene in its own way, being out in nature and snowboarding. But surfing is very different, much more challenging. So surfing has become a very important tool in my toolkit. And I think combining the tools such as surfing and being out in nature medicine, nature bathing, getting out in the sun. And by the way, we haven't had that much sun at all in the last 3-4 weeks. It has been, it rained 4 days in a row here. So the fact that the sun is out today is such a gift. And no matter where you are, whether you're in a freezing cold climate or you're in a hot place, getting out and getting some sun is really important. Getting that vitamin D, getting the vitamins and getting the nourishment from the sun is important. And so these are the medicines that I found here in Costa Rica. And since I've been here, you're probably wondering, like, wow, is Jesse doing ayahuasca? Is he doing plant medicine? He must be doing medicine all the time there. And actually, I've done no ayahuasca and none of the plant medicines here, because what I realized is that the medicine is already in me. What does that mean? The inner work that I do when I come out into nature, when I go out and I walk barefoot in the grass, which I did back home. I even did it in the snow. I was doing these things back home. I was visiting the river every day back home. No matter what temperature it was outside, I'd go visit the river, sometimes jump in the river, do a nice little cold plunge. But what I realized is the medicine is it's within me. And when you do medicine, whether that is ayahuasca, like a master teacher plant like ayahuasca that's guided, or you are invited into some sacred circle to do a medicine, you're actually accessing what is inside of you, the things that are coming up inside of you. So I know many people who meditate, which I meditate just about every day. And you can access really deep parts of yourself. And you can access deep parts of yourself through, prayer, contemplation, meditation, mindfulness practices, obviously going out into nature, spending time with a close friend where you can just be yourself, where there's no expectations. These are all medicines in themselves. So what I've realized is by not doing medicine here and tapping into ocean medicine and nature medicine, sun medicine, and also just our own medicine that's inside of us, the own medicine that's inside of me, it has caused a really powerful cathartic awakening, probably the biggest one of my life. And fortunately, I have support. And if you're listening to this podcast and you're wondering why you feel so depressed, why you feel so stuck, why you feel so addicted, and I don't mean addicted to drugs necessarily. Maybe some of you are struggling with that, but I'm talking about addicted to being really plugged in to the news, being plugged into foods, numbing out every night with foods. And even if it's only a few nights a week, there's shame. I just want to say to you that it's okay. You'll get through it. And part of getting through that is asking for help and finding maybe a good therapist, a good guide, someone to help you through, not necessarily to do medicines or plant medicines or any of these things, but just to hear you, just to hear the real you, the real dreams, the real wants, the real desires, to express it, the real anger, which is often masking love, the love that you want to feel, you want to express for yourself, and you want to feel from others. Anger is often masking grief. And there's been a tremendous amount of grief that has come up here in Costa Rica, letting go of so many different thought processes, so many things that I held on to that were keeping me safe. Because ultimately, my body wants to be in a homeostasis place. It wants homeostasis. It wants to feel safe. It wants to be nourished. And sometimes to get nourishment, we need to find that one person or two people to help us. And that could be a very close, trusted friend. That could be a really skilled therapist. That could be some type of guide or mentor. Someone to help, to just hear you, the real you. And that's what I've really learned over the last 100 plus days here in Costa Rica, is that I don't need plant medicine. I don't need anything except the relationship that I'm building with myself. And the inner work that I'm doing with myself ultimately is going to attract the people and the things that are good for me, that are kind to me, that will ultimately help to express my highest intentions that I'm looking to bring out while I'm here in this one life, in this one timeline that I'm in. And maybe there's multiple timelines. I don't know, but I'm in one right now. And that's what I've learned here, is to trust myself, is to trust where I'm being led, and being able to express my needs, being able to express boundaries. How many of you need to look at some of these relationships that you're in, that you need to set boundaries, that you need to begin to take care of your own self and stop regulating other people and start regulating yourself, self-regulation through mindfulness practices, through self-compassion, through talking to that inner child that has been left behind, that just wants you to come back, that just wants you to have fun, that wants you to also bring safety, to also bring abundance, and learn about how do I fulfill these desires, these wants, these needs that I have, that this child inside wants. Whether that's through, it could be through learning about your trauma as a child. It could be through any of the traumas you've had in life, starting to resolve those traumas. If you listen to this show, obviously we talk a lot about trauma healing. We talk a lot about ways to heal, holistic health in all different ways. I bring on many guests, many of my guests that I've had on, and many of the guests that are coming on to this show are talking about deep cathartic processes of trauma healing, but also how to tap into your gut, your intuition, to these deep, deep knowings, which can be tapped into at any time, unless you are in fight or flight or freeze. These are states in your nervous system that are very common. And I feel many people are living in a fight or flight or freeze state. There's been a lot of changes. There's been a lot of awakenings. There's been a lot of many triggers since COVID, during COVID, now to be in this world where it seems that it's not safe to even go on Facebook anymore, where a post on Facebook is now going to be judged red or blue. So we've sort of lost our way. And so this message in this episode, my first solo episode, is to go inside, to get a journal, to write down what's inside of here. What is inside of here? What does this inside of me hold? What treasures? What pain? What light? What dark? Both light and dark exist. Writing it down. What is it that I really desire? What is it that I want? What am I not expressing that is now manifesting in disease, that is now manifesting in dis-ease, that is now manifesting as back pain, joint pain, arthritis, sickness? These wants and desires want to come out. This child wants to be heard. And until it is heard, there will be all types of challenges, and there will be repeated patterns continuing over and over and over until you decide to step outside the box you're living in, to ask for help. If you can't afford a guide, a therapist, a mentor, reach out anyways. Ask for help. Ask if they have a sliding scale model. Start the work. Start working on yourself. Earlier this year, I had gone on a couple of journeys, and these were guided journeys into medicine. And I had set intentions for those journeys. I also was working with a guide to share my experience with. And I recently just looked at some of my notes and realized that everything I had written down and my intentions for that journey were fulfilled. And one of those was to find a therapist that their expertise was in what I've struggled with the most in this lifetime, which is putting people before myself, which is people pleasing, which is really codependency. And in its own way, it is just as destructive as narcissism. And I wrote this down to find this guide, this therapist. I had written down to move, to find a new place to live where I can be in an environment that would foster more of my abilities, more of this vision I have for entrepreneurs in recovery in this podcast. I'd written down a couple other personal intentions, and they all came to pass very quickly after writing them down and taking that time to go inward. And I share that to say, I forgot about that. And that guide, that therapist, I still work with today. And so I'm encouraging you today to go inward, get a journal, write down your feelings, write your feelings down about it all. Write down your feelings of you kicking yourself that you didn't get into Bitcoin earlier, or write down the feelings that you have of what's happening with this election. Write down your feelings about your triggers and irritations and anger towards drugs and plant medicines, and being afraid to utilize that therapy, or being hurt, or knowing someone who got hurt by utilizing those therapies. Or write down the potential to hire a trained guide to be assisted and helped through these different psychedelic assisted therapies. But the point is, write down what is triggering you, what is making you angry, and write that down. And then also make a list and write down before bed your gratitude. What are you grateful for? Being grateful for breathing, being grateful for the sun, being grateful for the rain that sustains nature, this rainforest, and wherever you live, being grateful for maybe the seasons, or being ungrateful for the seasons because of seasonal depression. Everyone who's listening to this, each person is unique. Each person has their own triggers, what makes them happy, what makes them sad, what makes them depressed. You know all this. So I'm just here as a reminder to go ahead and take great care of yourself. Tap into this deep innate part of yourself that you have, which has the ability to heal yourself. And the parts that you can't access and go deep in, start to do research. Start to use Dr. Google. Not that all of Google is reliable, of course, but start to search. Oh, let me look into internal family systems. Let me buy a book on that. Let me learn about my inner child. Let me learn about cold therapy, cold exposure. Let me go ahead and, I don't want to even talk about my books, but maybe you read the book that I wrote about cold showers. Maybe you read the book I wrote about addiction recovery from a lens of an entrepreneur. You check out the book. If not you, then who? Check that out. Maybe that will help you. And maybe if you're like, I don't have time for any of this. I'm going 1,000,000 miles an hour. I'm working 90 hours a week. I got 2 kids. I can't go and do this. Then buy the audiobook. Listen to this podcast. Go back and listen to the last 40 episodes. Listen to someone else's podcast. Find a podcast that inspires you. Find out ways that you love to learn. But really, there's no excuse. Buy a book on Kindle. If you don't like holding a book and you want to be on your phone, find a way. There's always a way. And I just want to say I'm so grateful for you that you've tuned in to this episode. It's over 20 minutes long, 22 minutes long. I'm so grateful that you're here today, and sending lots of love and blessings here. Over 100 days on this journey from Costa Rica, and we will do this again. Take care. Thank you for checking out Entrepreneurs in Recovery podcast. We are so appreciative that you are here. Make sure you go ahead and like and subscribe to the show on YouTube. Leave a review on iTunes and Spotify so more people can find the show. Once again, thank you so much. We have great episodes and content coming out in the future. Thank you for being here. Have a blessed day.